Good evening. Welcome to another stream on the Vets and Vagrants. Tonight, instead of our normal D&D session, we had some conflicts to the schedule or whatever. It's fine. It happens. Instead, we're going to do a little... Oh, let me mute that. We're going to do a DM's Roundtable. All three of us, while we are players, are also DMs. We're just going to talk about some of the stuff. A, why we DM. B, kind of get into some questions we're going to ask each other, little talking point stuff we all came up with because we prepare. Kind of see what drives us as DMs. Do's, don'ts, things we like, things we don't like, inspirations for how we DM and like how we build stories. So to kick it off, I'm going to ask the first question, and I'm going to have that be the first question. So for you two guys, like, I know for me, I'm an old fuck, so I have 4 decades of movies, stories, like books, short stories, stuff, different content that I use to kind of inspire how I build a campaign. What are you guys like? What's like your go-to inspiration for building a campaign?
First off,
And
I'm
why
gonna
is it
say.
J.R. Tolkien?
First off, I'm gonna say you stole my first question, like verbatim.
You're welcome.
I mean, he kind
um,
of roundabout stole my third question, but we'll get there. There was bound to be some overlap.
Tony,
Oh
do you
yeah.
want to go first?
Yeah. So my inspiration, I started in D&D third edition. The movie that came out in 2000, that like Dungeons and Dragons movie. The
It was
even though
so bad.
even though in today's standards it's probably horrible.
It was bad by that
No,
that era
dude, I
standards.
don't care. To me,
It was still so
when
good though.
oh yeah, when I was that age, that was gold. I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? Because I was already kind of experimenting with Lord of the Rings. I actually was forced into reading those books as a punishment, and then I had to do book reports on it. But then no longer became a punishment because they're amazing. And and so I watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out in 2000. And then I started watching, because DVD. So I started watching the special stuff, and they talked about Gary Gygax inventing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, wait a minute, I can get behind that. And so I got third edition because that was what was available at the time, and just started going from there. As far as like anything else, I mean, you got Lord of the Rings. That's what started it all, really. That was Gary Gygax's inspiration, and then you got the movie, and it just built from there.
Yeah. I started playing 3.5 and playing it put loosely because it was more or less me and my buddies in his basement making characters and then doing one fight and then a week later make all new characters and
So you
make
mean like circa 1970s style D&D?
but yeah,
Welcome to the arena.
Yeah, started playing 3.5. And like Tony was saying, yeah, big Lord of the Rings kid growing up, and but this campaign that we're streaming right now, for me, the Tale of Salt and Sword, is my first campaign that I've ever run as a DM. So my inspiration for DMing isn't as rooted as Chris and Tony's are because they've been DMing for much longer than I have. I've been a player for quite some time now, but I would say a lot of my inspiration comes from just uh like pirate like movies, but mainly just stuff in campaigns that I've played and went, it'd be really cool if the campaign was sort of this way instead of the way it is. Um, and then obviously, video games. I play a lot of video games, so a lot of inspiration comes from that. But more or less just I'm not very good at pre-planning, so it comes to a lot of I'm gonna set a path and just sort of white knuckle it and hope that the players get there.
Yeah, well, I mean that's a big DM method too. That's one of the many. I think my biggest inspirations, because like Tony, I mean, I started early, like early third edition, and I think Tolkien. Obviously, I haven't met a DM who didn't have some root in Tolkien. I also have I've drawn a lot, and not just in my DMing, but even in characters, from different, like a lot of different authors as well, like things that were kind of outside the scope of your kind of normal D&D stuff. Um, uh, I don't know why I literally just blanked on it. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Must have been a lie.
Wrote The Shining. Why can't I?
Stephen King.
Stephen King. Oswald.
Moose over here sleeping.
Him being confused made me confused, and I was like,
Yeah.
in my head, I was like, Stephen King would know. He would know that.
Like Oswald was based on one of the gunslingers from the Dark Tower, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of, especially like our generation of DMs, and I think that's one of the things that kind of makes us a little bit different is you're finding, and even the younger DMs too, you're finding guys pull in, like guys and girls. I say guys very loosely because even our guys are questionable. But you find them pulling inspiration from a lot of different stuff. Like that's why I love the Tale of Salt and Sword. I have yet to play a maritime operation, campaign. I think the way you're doing it's cool as shit, and I've always thought like, hey, this would be cool to put a ship in here. I never thought to do the whole campaign on a ship. But yeah, like I'd say my two biggest is cinema in general. The old Dungeons and Dragons movie, the new one even, it was really good. But I mean, you got movies like Legend, the Never Ending Story, The Dark Crystal, all of hell, fucking Star Wars. You've got all these like, small town hero movies that kind of drive really good stories. And I think that for me, that was a lot of it. I read a lot, but I still pull a lot from movies. All right, Moose.
All right. This sort of this rolls really nicely actually. If you guys had to describe your campaign styles, in the terms of like movie genres, a little fun one, what would you be? What would they be? What would you describe it as?
Romantic comedy, B, horror slasher film.
So like friends stuck in a cabin in the woods?
Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't know. Tony, you go first. Yeah.
Like honestly, I have no idea. I mean, I'm the high fantasy kind of guy, so I mean,
or this would
Yeah,
be
like-
this would be, I guess this would be better. It's always hard to describe stuff about yourself. What would you describe each other's campaign styles as in terms of movie genres? I guess that's easier because
That's Tony described his perfectly. It's high fantasy, but I feel like
high fantasy, adventure, comedy.
yeah, and then
A
yeah, I
little
think that's-
romance if
If
the
me
players are about
and
it.
Andy are playing together. It's always
like when you guys threw in like when I think the first or second campaign I ran where you were in the bandit camp and the two
yeah.
were their
Oh yeah,
names?
the Paul.
Philip,
Ted.
yeah,
No, Paul.
Philip and
Philip.
Philip and Brian.
Steven. Brian was the one that got killed. Steven. Philip and Steven. Look, guys.
It just happened generically, like he like with when Moose was saying like he doesn't really plan a whole lot ahead. It's like that's I run my campaigns 100 like pretty much 95% player driven.
Yeah.
I'll create a flow of the session prior, and like if here lately I've been getting into the mindset of one session's full RP, and I know I don't speak for myself with this. And then the next session, that RP session leads up to the combat for the next session, and that whole next session is combat. And so it makes it a lot easier to plan, because especially for the combat, which we'll get into later, it's one of my talking points. It can get very droll and very just drawn out, especially when players, myself included, get to the, all right, what am I going to do? Okay, and then I like how Alchemy kind of has that countdown. It's like, all right, you're already at 6 minutes into your turn. What are you doing?
Yeah, and not only that, it's such a mindset flip as a player of like especially for not throwing any of our players under the bus, but Tim has vocalized, this is his second campaign, third campaign that he's ever played in, and the other two weren't very long. And he's getting better. He's getting much better than compared to his first one, but with RP,
Well, he's new to that whole aspect of it.
Yeah, and just having that sort of line of okay, you guys are coming into this session today knowing that we're killing stuff, or hey, this is going to be a big talky talk session. So,
and I think Tim as a player, I think he shines when he gets to punch stuff in the face.
Exactly.
So that's what brings him to the table, and that's what every table needs somebody that they can punch in the face. And so, but what I was getting at is it's good to have that flow. You need to create a flow, even if it's just an RP session. It's like, I'm going to start you here, and I'm going to try to get you to this point. But ultimately, it's up to the player. I was playing an in-person adventure, and I believe I've told you guys this before, but for the purposes of the stream, when I was living in Tennessee, I played in person every Thursday, and our dungeon master was a heck of a dude. Didn't really do voices or anything, but he didn't need to, because he was really in depth with the descriptions and the storytelling. And we were playing a seafaring campaign, and something happened there we go.
Yeah, it was a fuck up on my part.
And so we were playing a seafaring campaign, and we're come across this ship that's it's a ruined ship just kind of sticking out of the water. And he's like, hey, you guys want to go search that? Wink, wink, hint, hint. Go over there and search that. And we're like, nah, we're good. Just blow it out of the water. Move on. And he goes, okay, well, there's 3 pages of content. It's good to have a solid flow plan, but you don't want to get into the nitty gritty and the off chance that the players just, we don't want that.
Yeah.
And so I think it wasn't Curse of Strahd, but the campaign I ran prior to that with you guys, the first hour and a half was straight from the hip. I didn't plan for any of it, but you guys sold it and you guys played it so well. And I was like, I can run with this.
Yeah.
So high fantasy, you would say it was if it was a movie genre,
right? Yeah.
I
try to push mine into being like buddy cop.
I was gonna say if I had to
mine always
yours,
ended up being a buddy cop.
If I had to describe yours, it would be the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, I dig that. Yeah, I like humor. I want a thriller. I want you guys to be. I want you to come into a session either excited about what you know is going to happen, or with some sense of anticipation about what might happen. And so I want a comedy thriller, because if you can make, I'm glad you picked the cinema thing, because it's one of those if you can, just like in a movie, if you can make them laugh, if you can make them cry, and then you can get them and you can build anticipation, and you can get them excited, even if it's a horror excitement. But if you can make them laugh, cry, and get them excited, your players, it doesn't matter what happens or what you have written down for the session. It's that is, in my opinion, what makes a good campaign. So I guess that would be mine. Would be the old school late '80s, early '90s action comedies.
You're trying to
movies
make
Legend.
You're trying to make a Medea movie.
Medea.
I mean, yeah, call me the Tyler Perry of D&D. I've been known as the Tyler Perry of D&D for some while. Yeah. Like little known fact, most of the characters are Tyler Perry dressed up as Medea playing that character. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that would be mine. What would you say yours is, Moose? Your one DM adventure right now. And why is it Battleship?
I mean, obviously, Pirates of the Caribbean.
I was about to say, why is it like Battle? Why is it Battleship with the Skarsgård dude in it?
That's a little on the nose because of water. I would say mine is more
John Leguizamo's sex fantasy.
Have you guys been on this website called Brazzers? No, I'm kidding.
Oh, right. Demonetized.
I already said fuck in like the first 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but
no, actually, you're good because it started and we didn't actually start doing this until 6 minutes in, so we're good.
I don't know, man.
I'll take a shot at yours.
Okay, please.
Yours, I wouldn't say movie genre. Like yours has a very, like, it's very Black Sails. It's all like Black Sails and like episodic.
Okay.
But it's almost a sitcom, and it's wholly because of the dynamic between
the characters.
Boats. Yeah, between Boats and Tim. That whole like Chief versus Drish.
Yeah,
Chief and Drish. That whole dynamic between the two of them, and then freaking Tony's character just hiring the greatest chef in the history of the oceans, and then mine and Bree's character being like the little criminal buddy team. I think yours seems to me anyway. It's very like almost sitcom-y. It's like
series almost.
Yeah, if Black Sails was a comedy.
Little known fact. little sneak peek behind the curtain. I plan on having Chief and Drish get married at some point to each other.
Well, it's not a sneak peek anymore if they're watching the stream.
Yeah, we know they're not.
Oh, look, they just commented. All right, Tony. What good talk?
All right. Well, the first one I have is that I already know the answer for you guys, but
for the fans.
For the fans, do you guys prefer pre-published or homebrew, and why?
Homebrew. That's easy for me. I don't like constraints.
It's a toss-up for me. I grew up in the D&D, like the text D&D, and I mean, don't get me wrong. The Critical Role guys, all your big name D&D streamers and stuff like that. I mean, they write phenomenal content. Matt Mercer writes phenomenal content. Brendan writes, and he's a great D&D. And even what's her face? Oh God,
not Arasha.
From Daredevil.
Oh yeah,
her stuff. I've read some of her stuff, and I watched the one that she did with like Jack Black and that whole crew.
She was in True Blood before Daredevil.
Yeah, amen. And in all honesty, I preferred her in True Blood. They write great content for homebrew stuff, and I've seen and I've played a lot of really good homebrew stuff. But man, when you grow up watching the Sword Coast and the lore behind it, and the lore like within each one of those pre-published, it's hard to beat that. And for me personally, like I love homebrew stuff, but even my homebrew stuff more often than not ties into the Sword Coast and the old D&D lore. And so I'm on the fence, man. I think a lot of it depends on your players.
So to answer the question, it was Deborah Ann Wall.
Yeah, I prefer Deborah Ann Wall to homebrew or But no, that her she writes fantastic stuff. But I like them both. I think it really just depends on your players. Some players do better with homebrew than they do with pre-published.
And now the thing, like, there's like what Moose was saying earlier with he doesn't like the constraints. Like, yes, it's pre-published, and yes, there's a flow, but I mean, you could still take it. It even says in there in the disclaimer, it's like this is your book. You do what you want. Like Icewind Dale, I was actually doing the Rime of the Frostmaiden, the book I just purchased. Reading the reviews, it's like one of the hardest adventures to actually run because there's nothing holding your hand saying, "Okay, get rid of the rhyme, don't get rid of it."
It's one of the reasons.
At the end of the campaign, you're going to end it on Necropolis.
That is one of my favorite books that I've read through because of that. And all of them, all the ones that are like tied to that, I think that's one of the greatest things with the pre-published too, is like you don't have to buy like just the Curse of Strahd. Like you can buy like there's context published adventures around these bigger main adventures. But yeah, dude, that's one of my favorite ones I've read because I opened it up and was like, oh, look, it looks like I wrote the campaign because it's like, hey, this is where they started. This is kind of where they need to be at the end of that session. Fill in the blanks. Good luck.
Yeah.
It's a Mad Lib.
And then, like, it's published, it's, in the thing, the leveling scheme is like level 1 to 7, but it's like you can get it to 10, you can get from level 10 to 20. Like, it just depends on how you run it. Like, if each time you complete, there's the scheme is, well, you do 4 cities, 4 towns or whatever in the 10-town scheme, you should be level 4. Or I think it's after 5 towns, you should be level 4. Don't get any more levels after those towns. It's like, well, yeah, we'll do something. It's
I'm a real mom, Brenda.
Exactly. The beautiful thing about D&D, the beautiful thing about D&D is that you have the freedom to do what you want, even though it's a pre-published adventure. The only thing it does is kind of just take away your prep work. Basically, you still got to read it. You still got to figure, okay, this is what I'm going to do, but you don't have to create the adventure, and it's a time saver, especially when you're doing several campaigns at once.
Yeah. For me though, it's just it's less about the constraints and more about just doing justice, because like I know these are I'm not a big like book reader. Like I've read all 4 of the Lord of the or 5 now because it's Silmarillion, but all the Lord of the Rings, the Tolkien stuff. I read some book in high school about a kid in an attic or some shit like that. Not Anne Frank. I know that one. It wasn't her. It was something.
I was about to say. It didn't have to be a diary, was it?
No, but and I know that like Forgotten Plains and like Faerun and all that stuff are like very loved, and I just sort of want to avoid doing injustice to that with some of these pre-planned, and then we already have Bree as our rules lawyer when it comes to playing, and then we have the bald guy over there, all the way on the other side of the stream right now. He's the lore lawyer, who will call me out if the elves and the dwarves didn't really get along like
that. Au contraire, mon ami. They did in this world.
I find it more comfortable and less of a headache for me just to do a homebrew.
Yeah. And like a lot of times homebrew, it serves its purposes. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just my years of experience in the matter, but I can typically come up with something. You give me a little snippet and I'm going, all right, this is what's going to happen. It's just when I get burnt out, because it's like if something, even though I love playing D&D, if something has to be done, to me, it becomes a job.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and now I hate it. So the less prep work I have to do, I'm about it, because it's like, okay, I want to take the lazy DM route.
And that's part of the reason I love, Cardanthe, my world from Tale of Salt and Sword, because I really made 3 places. I made Vorn, I made Bluemaw, and I made Shinora. And then all these little islands that are dotted around this archipelago, I can just sort of be like, yeah, it's a bunch of kobolds on there that talk in New York accents. that works with a big dragon turtle. Big whoop.
A big dragon turtle that had almost destroyed us.
Forget about it.
But nah, all right.
Alright.
Top of
Chris?
the hour. Back to Chris.
Oh, nice. Oh, we're doing
Okay.
this. Okay.
Yeah.
Round robin.
I would say, let me
There's
see.
a round table after all. You go around it.
Are we knights? So I think one of the big questions I wanted to do was we have all been players, we've all been DMs, right? Which do you prefer? This is two-part. Do you prefer being a DM or a player? And as players, because we all kind of have that one special character. As players or DMs, what is your favorite character or NPC as a DM that you've created?
Okay. I can start this one.
Yeah, go for it.
I prefer being the game master over being a player. And that's just because I'm a narcissist and I prefer control.
I'm getting to
there
one.
it is. Good. That's what this whole thing was
Ladies
for.
and gentlemen,
This
we
whole-
got him.
This whole round
Hi,
table
I'm
was
a
just for that
narcissist.
admission. All right, guys, thanks for being in the stream. We finally got Tony to admit he's a narcissist. No,
But
sorry.
no, on a for real note, I feel like as a game master, watching everybody in the group have fun with something that I've created or I am facilitating just gives me so much joy that you just can't get as a player. Like, yes, as a player, you can have a lot of fun, especially when you take the time being a DM as well. You get that extra oomph of role play in your character. And I've noticed that from all three of you. But when you're a game master, it's like when people,
Sorry,
whatever,
I just got
too.
that.
I was like, wait, who's the
other? From all three of us, we'll say, good catch. That it's a whole other level for me. Like watching joy come from something that I've created.
Absolutely.
My favorite character that I've played, it would be, and not in this campaign, it'd be in my person campaign. The first campaign I played with them, the Seafaring, I was a paladin, and I was a dragonborn paladin, and I loved it. Like, I remember the last time I played with them, I was swallowed by a giant worm, and I breathed fire inside his throat and cut out with my sword and decapitated the guy. And it was amazing. But my favorite, I don't have a favorite NPC because honestly, my memory's crap and I don't remember any of them.
For me, player, honestly, probably most understandable why the first campaign running, it's still very nerve-wracking and just sort of like, want to do it right, and then I had the crazy idea of, hey, let's live stream this on YouTube for eventually, hopefully, fingers crossed, a bunch of people to fucking watch, but right now it's just sort of us. Yeah, player as of right now,
toe in the water and already scared. I see it.
Player as of right now, who knows, in a year's time, 2 years time, 3 years time, it might switch back to be more like Tony's and want to be the GM. But yeah, it's just, I find it easier mainly because I've been doing it longer too. Like being a player, being a GM, it just comes more easy to me. And then also being a player in this group is mindless. Like, you don't have to think about it. You fall into your character because everybody else has fell into theirs, and
everybody else is a felon.
Everybody's fell into theirs, and you just sort of sink into your role play, and it's effortless. And favorite player I've played was way back in like 2003, maybe. Uh, it was when we were just doing, make a character in the basement and fight each other. Uh, we pulled some strings and I made a mind flayer wizard. And I remember the first meeting between me and one of the other players was he had a trident and he had pinned my neck to a wall with it, and I rolled like a nat 20 strength check, and with the tentacles, snapped the shaft in half of the trident, and I was just like, I get why this game is sick.
The spark is lit.
And probably favorite NPC. I can't fucking remember his name for the life of me right now. The one we gave the one we gave Tim. The crazy one to help him shoot people out of cannons.
Oh,
Gilligan.
Gilligan. Yeah.
Gilligan, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite one.
I was gonna say it was either gonna be him or what's our the dude that keeps showing up right as we leave.
Oh, Grix.
Yeah, Grix keeps like showing up at the dock as we leave. For me, I think it's definitely it's a 50-50 split. There are times when like I have a really good idea, and obviously in my opinion for a story, and I want to get it on paper and I want to see you guys play it. But I love being in the story. You know, I like being a character along with you guys. Just because this is an absolutely insanely fun group of people to play D&D with. But yeah, I think it's definitely a mixed bag. It's hard to say with this group. Like there have been groups where I preferred to be the the GM, DM, whatever. Just because of how the players played. Like I didn't really flow with them, so it was easier to be the GM for them and kind of help drive the story. And then there's been groups where it's like they wanted me to build the story and do all that, but I wanted to play it because of who was playing it, and it was almost too much fun to just sit back and go, I like how you did that. It'd be fun if I had a person to do that with you. Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. Like I go through phases where there are times where I just want to build a story, and I just want to like kind of play the puppet master. But then there are also times where I just want to sit back and enjoy the story.
Yeah.
And especially with you two guys, like the stories are great. It's no bad content. Mainly because the two of y'all as DMs, you let us get away with a lot. So, I think favorite character wise is a more recent character. I've made a lot of characters I really liked. I will say the reason this is my favorite character is because of who all was playing with us. But it was I actually haven't pulled up right here. He was a half orc fighter champion. And this was actually
this dress.
Yeah, half orc fighter champion that I played for one of Tony's. It was like one of the first campaigns Tony ran, or was it Tony? No, that was one Payne ran for.
Yeah, it was Payne.
That character I think was probably one of my favorite ones, mainly because of like the buddy dynamic I had with Andy's character. Some of the weirdest shit that has ever happened to me in D&D happened to me in that campaign. I lost a cage fight on a nat 20 dick twist. Because it was a Goliath and a half orc, so it was like the two biggest dudes in the party obviously end up in the finals of this fucking cage fight in a tavern.
When Andy plays a Dwergar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Andy's Goliath for that one is what I think really it was the dynamic, but he's still one of my favorite characters. Him and I don't know if you were in that campaign, Moose. The Thorin Stormbreaker, the
Dwarf Ranger.
Dwarf
I
Ranger.
was
Yeah,
there for the last 2 sessions. That's when I
yeah,
started playing with you
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Because
Um,
I remember messaging Tony like a fucking crackhead and being like, "Hey man, I heard you're running a campaign. You got
hey,
any
you
room?"
got some of them? You got some of them stories I can get in on? I think those two. I think my favorite NPC that I've ever created. So I have two for this one too. My favorite NPC that I've ever used was D&D lore, uh, and it's a toss up between using Minsk and Boo because they are
Mm-hmm.
probably my favorite D&D lore like adventurer slash NPCs you can use in these stories. Um, just because I mean it's a badass in his fucking hamster, dude. His tiny space hamster.
Yeah, miniature giant space hamster.
Miniature giant space hamster. Yeah. Um, the other would be the dude. I'm blanking on the name again. I have a horrible memory for anybody watching this.
Which makes us great DMs.
While we write things down,
we plan by session.
yeah. The guy who
know
runs the
you-
yawning portal. I know. Tony,
Oh,
you'll know
yeah,
who I'm
yeah.
talking
The
about.
bartender guy.
Yeah. Because I used him to great effect in one of the
Mhm.
campaigns that we started. I don't think we ever finished that one. But yeah, he's cool as shit. I think the coolest one that I've ever created, and again, not gonna remember her name because I didn't write it down. Was the party you guys had that had no healer, and you were coming into like one of the final portions of the campaign.
Oh yeah, the
where
half orc lady.
Yeah, we had to have a healer. So I was like, you know what would be great? A socially awkward half orc cleric. And yeah, threw her in there. I think she was just a lot of fun to play as an NPC, and it kind of gave me the opportunity as the DM to also be part of the story. That was also where we cameoed Brianna.
Yeah.
Before she came in as an official player, she cameoed with us as Dritz's daughter or granddaughter. I
Something
think
like
it was
that.
his daughter.
I know she was the new version of Drow Elf that R.A.
Yeah.
Salvatore introduced in his latest series.
Yeah, and it was like
Star Drow or something.
yeah, the ones that are more along the lines of what Dritz was trying to achieve. But yeah, I think that was probably my favorite NPC I've done.
Just to wrap this topic up, let's go around and say which one is your favorite that the other people have played.
Ooh.
I'll start.
Yeah,
I'll start. Chris, Ozzy. I loved Oswald.
Oswald, dude.
I
Okay,
loved
he is
Ozzy.
one of my favorite characters that I've created, and he was awesome.
Yeah,
But again, me and Bree ended up in some like. It's one of those things. Me and Bree have to start making super contradictory characters because we always end up in this like little buddy team.
Yeah.
Because him and Elizabeth, the little fucking
yeah,
100-year-old witch trapped in a little young child's body was weird. But them is like that would be a great fucking show.
And
Blood hunter, gunslinger, and his little witch child.
And Tony, for me, my favorite for you was Malachi. I think is what his name was.
Yes, that was gonna be mine too.
Your Asperger's warlock.
I just got to say, like the whole you tried to throw bats at me and I shockwave that shit. Sorry guys, this is gonna hurt.
That
it was an ask. He was like, "Can I use thaumaturgy to make?"
Thaumaturgy. Yep, big boom. I like how you.
I remember that.
No, for yours, Moose. It was the Minotaur that you just recently played because I think that's again my memory is crap, but I think that's when you first started kind of dipping into voices and sticking with it and started actually like role playing the character.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, Chris, like pretty much every character you play fucking awesome. So I don't really have a.
You're so sweet.
Mentally, I can't remember the names, and I don't want to say Oswald again.
Well, I mean, with you, I think I've only played Thorin, Druss, Oswald.
I did like Thorin.
Yeah, that's been about it. And then Umlin.
Yeah, honorable mention for me, Umlin and Whizbang.
Dude, that was our duo, bud. Yeah, I think honestly, Moose, for me, yours would be either Whizbang or Thrax. I think there's a huge dynamic difference between the two characters, and you played both of them very well. I think Thrax, and I agree with Tony, I think Thrax is probably my favorite one I've seen you play because the role play for Thrax was really good.
Mhm.
And as a DM, I see a little more, but like there was almost a visible emotional shift between the lovable giant minotaur that's like, just used to be this like big violent dude, but is just kind of the dumb lovable hunk walking around, to when combat started, and it was like even you as a person, your whole like mentality shifted, and it showed in your character. Tony, for you was it was definitely the tiefling. Um, Malachi is definitely. You do really well with RP, with a lot of RP situations, but I think Malachi was probably one of my favorite because of the like him talking to his spear.
Yeah.
Before he talked to everybody else. Like, what do we say? What do we say to them? I don't know what to say to them. Hello. Yeah, like the whole, like,
We must consult.
I think Malachi is probably one of my favorite ones you've played.
Whose question was that?
That was me,
That was
but then
me?
it faded into you.
Yeah, that was just a little fucking add-on.
Now it's your question.
Now it's me. Now
Yes.
this for me is for me's now.
This is for you.
Okay. And we're on the topic, so I'll go to 4 and then we'll come back to 3. What do you look for when it comes to what your players bring to character creation?
Oh, right out the gate, role play. Like, I want people to become their character essentially.
Yeah.
We don't need some 80-page backstory like a certain person gave us one time. But a good in-depth backstory that covers the points and is like, this is something that I can play. Like when I'm DMing, because that's what makes the game fun. Is when you get into your character instead of just saying,
even if they're learning the character.
Yeah, even if they're learning their character, that's the thing about D&D. It's like, never be afraid to experiment, never be afraid to look a fool. That's the whole point of the game, is use your imagination. And the only person who's going to see you is your loved one, which they shouldn't be judging you anyway, or your people you're playing with. Who gives a crap? And so it's like, when you role play, it just brings that extra level of oomph to the game, and it helps facilitate, especially when we're doing little role play sessions when we have some downtime. It's like, all right, what do you like, Chris, what you just recently did last campaign with the train ride? Make us role play,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you have time. What are you doing? Character creation, good backstory, role play. The voice, I love bringing a voice to the table. You don't have to, because I know some people can't bring voices to the table, and that's fine. Your voice is the voice of the character. But adding a little dialect or a change of voice, or like, I appreciate the wonderful feedback from Malachi, what I did with him. I mean, that's how I felt the character should be played, and that's how I played him.
I think I'm on board. My biggest thing for when players create characters, I feel like there's this weird dichotomy between I want to make something that's going to be effective,
Mm-hmm.
but then if you're trying to create a character that's going to be OP or super strong, then you miss out on a lot of the things that really, in my opinion, are the reason for the game. You miss out on an RPable character.
Trials and
You know,
tribulations. If you
yeah,
just
like
succeed at everything.
yeah, it's you will, and like you don't get the opportunity to explore the space, so to speak. Like
Explore space, man. Explore space.
I want to go. I want to go to the moon, and you can't
Need more
stop me.
cowbell.
You can't stop me, and I'm a real mother, Brenda. Jesus. But like it's a lot like what Tony said. I want players to create a character that they get invested in, because I want, like, that's one of the reasons, like, for everybody who watched the first stream of Aranthia New Beginnings, they got TPK'd, like, not even halfway through the campaign, because of certain things that I put into the story. But I want I want them to get upset that their character's gone. Not because they put time into levels and all this stuff. I want them to get upset because of the person that character was. Does that make sense? I want them to be invested in who the character is, not what the character can do.
Yeah.
Like, sure, you're a fucking level 7, warlock druid, and you're the team's fucking tank or whatever. That's great. Who is your character? Because that's, for me, on the player side, that's one of the big things for me, is like it's an opportunity to be something different. It's an opportunity to bring an idea and bring a role into existence and have an absolute fucking blast playing that role. Like fucking Umlin. Umlin wouldn't have been shit without Whizbang. They're dynamic, and that wasn't really, it wasn't like pre-planned out of the rip. When we started building, we were like, hey, these two could really kind of fit together, and so, like, if something happened to Whizbang, me as a person, it made me feel fucking shitty, because it would have made Umlin feel shitty. If that makes sense. So that for me, I want I want the players to build characters that they want to RP, and that they would be upset with if that character was gone.
Yeah.
Like the combat shit, the stats are fucking horseshit, in my opinion. Your stats are horseshit. Your stats are how you survive the game, and the character development, the RP, is how you play the game.
Well said, sir. Golf clap.
Yeah, I mean, just on top of everything that they just said, coming from a player, mainly, put flaws in your player. Put flaws in. Like, I wish I would have done this, sort of, made it a mandatory thing for my pirate campaign, because of how important I'm making, like, economy and stuff in it. Like, looking back on it now, I wish I would have had you guys, like, pick flaws, like, uh I can't, I'm blanking on names right now, but like Chris's character, like, he's got 10,000 gold worth of debt, and he's got bounty hunters coming after him looking to collect, or some shit like that. Or Tony's character, big god guy, but he's got a gambling problem, you know?
He read the wrong mind.
So every time we pull into a port, he's like, ooh, I want to go play some dice or something, But
where are the knucklebones?
Yeah. But just give, like, and like that's a way too, like, if you're
real heavy meth
if
head.
you're too stressed about, like, oh, but what if I die in combat? Like, okay,
Gives a shit.
Make your stats good, but give your RP and your wallet limitations in the sense of like, okay, cool, we get the port. Everybody else is going and buying these cool new magic weapons because we just, killed a dragon or whatever. You get the port and you got 2 loan officers there going, hey, we're going to need to seize that until your loans are paid off. Or you get to port and you lose all your money rolling dice at the pub. Or you lose all your money because you bought some women of the night and they robbed you afterwards,
Dark elves?
I think Icewind Dale, when I was reading the intro to Icewind Dale, like during the character creation, it gives you options for secrets that the characters have. And that like they can be strictly role play. Like one of the secrets is you're a hardcore Dritz fan. It brings nothing to the table, but you can role play that. Because the Icewind Dale campaign is set 100 years after R.A. Salvatore's Icewind Dale trilogy. And then another secret is you owe one of the Pashas in Callanport a shit ton of money, and you came to Icewind Dale to flee that. And once you get a certain amount of reputation in Tin Towns, assassins are going to start showing up to kill you.
I think that too, like you were saying, Moose, the limitation, not really, they're not limitations, but those flaws force the player to explore the character.
Yeah.
But that's a great way to do it. I think one of the things I tried to do in this campaign was like that moment of like introspective RP that I gave y'all, where everybody kind of had to think about like what they just learned and what's going on, like forcing you guys inside the players.
Is it my turn for a question?
I believe it is. We're so good at this. We're so good at this. I love the.
Getting Elon.
I love the 10 seconds of silence that we always do at the end of a question. No one's got anything to say.
So I guess so it's my turn. So I have let's see, what sort of things have you done or what do you like to do to kind of spice up the flow of combat? Because I think that's one of the biggest like the turn-based is one of the biggest downsides that comes with D&Ds, because especially if you don't have a flow chart ready, you got to decide, especially like a wizard, if you're like a level 5 spellcaster, when I would say level 5 spellcaster, I mean you're casting 5th level spells, and you have that whole list. All right, I got to figure out what I'm going to do here. So we'll open it up. What do you do to kind of spice up the flow of combat?
I would say this is going to sound, like the opposite of what you would want to do as a DM, but like unwinnable combats. Situations where killing everybody is not the answer to the situation. The answer to the situation is either get the thing or get away. Yeah. And then it turns from, it's still combat, still turn-based, it's still people casting spells and stuff, but it turns into getting back to the ship, getting out of town, stuff like that.
Like a fight with a dragon turtle. We have a shitload of cannons on this ship.
Yeah.
Let's get them facing the thing.
The right way, yeah, exactly. But just sort of not killing everybody isn't the answer in every combat. A majority of them, sure. It's, it feels good when you just,
you're cornered in a cave with a bunch of dwarves.
It feels good when you slaughter, 50 kobolds. It's a good time. Everybody loves it.
And you have an bear breathing down your neck. I forgot about that.
I think that's a good point, Moose. Is like not every combat has to be combat. Not every encounter has to be a combat encounter. But I think one of the things I started doing was throwing in, if you're at the tail end of the like combat, or even at the beginning, throwing in an NPC, throwing in someone else that now the players have to think about.
Yeah, like a protection mission,
or just somebody who shows up to save your ass, like when Kaylin Swiftwing in the first Oranthia portion jumped in and
As a player,
Made sure made sure y'all didn't get TPK'd.
I have a feeling about that as a player, but I'll let you.
Well, I mean, it's one of those like, I
Yeah.
just didn't want everybody to die off, and I wanted to introduce an NPC in like an interesting way,
Mm-hmm.
and I think using combat to introduce story is a fun way to do it.
I know this is a questionnaire, but I'll give you a little constructive criticism about it. Him swooping in and then the fight's over. I think me personally and other players would much more prefer he just enters combat with us, and then he's part of the fight.
Yeah,
You know, but I get it. I get coming from that situation that we were in. For everybody, it's super boring right now because you guys didn't see this. But coming from that situation, I get the choices you made. I'm just saying, as a player, part of the reason I became a GM was because
you wanted to do things different.
yeah, exactly.
You wanted control.
I wanted to be
You
the important one.
freaking narcissist.
Yeah.
He wanted to explore his latent narcissism.
Adding on to like what Chris said with the adding an NPC, that can also mean you have a time constraint. Like in
Yeah.
a certain amount of rounds, the Dwergar encampment that you just ambushed in 3 rounds, the horn's blowing, and they're going to have 10 more Dwergar showing up to
Mhm.
reinforce. What
Yeah.
are you going to do? Or you have,
You get a call.
or you get, this NPC that you have to rescue. The thing's literally, 2 moves away from killing it. What can you do? And also like spicing up how you're, that's why I like to open it up to you guys. Like, how do you kill this character? What do you do? And how are you moving? What are you doing? How are you swinging your weapon? Like, that opens up the floor for you to come up with some interesting creative ways to be like, all right, well, I'm going to jump off this wall, ricochet onto the other one, and then throw my dagger at this dude's neck if I roll a crit.
Like when Andy threw Thorin like a football
Yeah.
through a shade, and because I was inside the shade, I couldn't miss.
Exactly. But adding like, because I think a lot of times, especially
Incentive.
as combat draws out, it's like, all right, I'm going to swing my axe and hit this guy.
Yeah.
You hit, okay, he's dead. And so it's like adding a little spice, a little flavor to the descriptions. Not all the time, because sometimes you need all right, I swing my axe to kind of facilitate the round. But adding some more descriptive ways to engage in combat, I think, kind of helps spice it up a little bit and kind of drown out the monotony.
Adding an incentive.
Yeah. And it helps keep it from getting prolonged, because like, you got to rescue somebody. If they die, encounter's over. All right. Or they die, you failed your mission. Now you have that sense of loss, and so the things that killed it ran away or whatever, left some stragglers to help cover the retreat, or however it is. But I think adding time constraints to combat kind of helps keep it from getting 10 rounds deep, and helps it flow a little better.
Alrighty, I think we're back to Chris. Yeah. Yep. Back to you. Moment of silence for the next question.
Yep.
Pause.
So
I can cut these into shorts now.
So I was golfing today.
So I'm gonna do a deep cut on this one. What? Okay, stand by.
Just roll crit. Just roll crits.
Just roll crits. Crit happens, man. So we all, to some degree or another, kind of went on a hiatus from D&D, or had like little brief periods. Like, what brought you back to D&D? What has kept you at D&D or keeps you in D&D, and what has brought you back to D&D?
So I had 2 hiatuses. I had one, I stopped playing after high school because I went to college. I dropped out of college. I joined the Navy. And then I started playing again when I got to my second command, because I met some other dudes who seemed equally as nerdy as me, and I asked them, "Have you ever played D&D before?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, "Do you want to?"
Well.
And they were like, "Oh, I've never played it
Welcome
before." And I was like,
to
"Cool."
my web.
I was like, "Cool, check this out." And I showed them some stuff about it, and one of them sort of, hindsight, it was a bad situation, but one of them sort of quickly latched to the DM role, and it turned out he just
Was a narcissist and wanted to control.
worse than that, dude. He had a fucking story in his head that didn't have room for our choices. Chris, do not bring those out when I'm talking serious.
And how did that make you feel?
But that
I was
was
about to say that.
that was the end of the first hiatus, and then the second one was after I finished that playing with that group, which only lasted for maybe a year. I went on another big one until a year ago. I started playing with you guys.
Yeah, just about.
And that was just sort of I was playing video games with Chris and Andy, and one night they were like, "Oh, we got to get off. We got to go play D&D." And I was like, "Oh,
really?
I'm a Nora."
Judaism, son.
And I was like, "Oh, y'all play?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I think the next session I was playing with them, and then it just sort of they haven't been able to get rid of me yet.
Tony,
We don't want to get rid of you.
Tony is drawn in by the hands. I see you staring.
I was actually staring at Moose, but I guess Discord has our cameras.
Sure you were.
I'm way better looking than his hands, Chris.
You gotta catch these hands.
Now, my hiatus, let's see. When I say I played third edition, I didn't have a group to play with, so I created adventures and I ran those adventures by myself. Try to get my family to play. Try to get my family to play, but they couldn't get behind the role play. So like, what is going on right now? I'm like, okay, just go away. And then so I just would buy the books when I had the money to do so, because I was like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
And I would just read them. Helped a lot in English class when it came time to write short stories. But after I graduated high school, didn't play anymore. Went to the Marines. My last unit in Okinawa, this was 2011 to 2013. I'm walking in the barracks from wherever, and I see a few of the Marines, combat engineer. They had that starter kit with the dragon, the ruins of a Chardalon or whatever. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, this is D&D. I was like, whoa. You guys need a DM? And I'm sitting there like, I'm trying to DM this session playing D&D with cards, and I'm like, what the heck is what? And so that was my other attempt to try to. That was my introduction to 5th edition. Because I mean, you ever played a starter kit? It's completely different than how we play.
Yeah.
And then when I was in Tennessee going to college, literally my first math teacher, she had a group that she played with, and she found out that I liked D&D. She's like, "Hey, we play on Thursdays. Come play with us." I'm like, sold. And then
one session in, she was like, "We'd like you to not come back anymore."
and you failed.
That was the paladin that killed the worm from the inside. So, just saying.
I think I started like technically pre 3rd edition, because I started in the like mid 90s.
So you would say 2nd edition?
I mean, well, you had like advanced D&D Unearthed, like all that. So that weird vague 2nd edition like time frame, like 90% of it was homebrew. But I think I went through, because like all through school we always had like groups that were either playing D&D or stuff like, I mean, a lot of tabletop stuff. I mean, Axis and Allies, uh, freaking Samurai Sword, which is just Japanese feudal Japan, Axis and Allies. Um, so the RPG stuff was kind of up and down. We played off and on for a good long while. My hiatus came after high school when like got out of high school, played with a few people here and there, never really long campaigns, usually like one shots on a whim. And then work in construction didn't really have time or the people to play with, and then went in the Marine Corps, and at that point it was all like we were all just playing Diablo and shit. We were playing things that had roots in D&D and D&D lore, but
was not.
We weren't playing D&D, and then I got back to it with this group. Mainly, and this is mainly for therapeutic reasons. It was almost serendipitous, to use a $5 word, because I read some stuff, and it was a couple of old veterans, war veterans, talking about how like the role play stuff is therapeutic because it helps you. There's escapism involved that helps you kind of deal with shit internally, and there's the opportunity to put your fucking
problems,
put your problems into a character and solve it in a mythical universe, and that's going to help you fucking psychologically deal with a lot of that stuff. And like for me, I was like, oh well, I mean, I'm familiar with this. I used to love this shit. Why not? And it has been absolutely therapeutic for me. It's one of the reasons, like, it's one of the things I look forward to most in my week, is getting to play with you guys because it helps me. Like, even doing the GM side of the house, um, being able to give you guys something to kind of being able to bring joy to a group of people that mean what y'all mean to me helps me deal with shit that I've got going on psychologically. But yeah, I mean I think that's essentially what brought me back to it, because without you guys, I mean, everything that was kind of going around D&D, the height of 5e was just like, oh, let's see who can create the greatest story that fit on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are creating the greatest stories to put on YouTube. No, I mean, yeah, for me, it was therapy. This is better than having some college kid in a sweater vest tell me how to deal with my feelings.
And on to piggyback off that, use it.
What the sir said.
Yeah, no, but the whole therapy thing, I think that's what keeps bringing me back to it subconsciously. Is that because shit, right now I'd probably be, if I didn't meet these two guys playing D&D, I probably wouldn't be as close and play video games with them as much as I do. I'd probably be sitting here on Discord by myself, just hoping that somebody else got on, and it's a
like what I've been doing lately.
That's a lonely spot to be in. But yeah. So, that was your question. That was your question, correct?
Yeah, that was you. Now we're to you.
All right, I got a kind of a two-parter. I'm gonna squeeze these two together because they're gonna bleed into each other.
Roll for damage.
So, what worlds that aren't typically represented in the TTRPG space would you want to GM in the future? And what other stories do you have in the works as of right now?
Ooh. Tony, you go first.
Well, I've already got League of Legends campaign pretty much homebrewed. I have session 1 ready to go. So I found somebody took the time to make a D&D conversion for 5e of the League of Legends universe, and it's rock solid for like the lore, the deities, the world itself, and it adds some flavor to character creation, kind of like what happens in Rime of the Frost Maiden. This is the zone you're in, and these are the benefits you get from being in that zone, even though they're not represented in the regular D&D world. So I'm ready to run that. I'm ready to run Curse of Strahd or a Curse of Strahd offshoot. I'm ready to run Ram of the Frost Maiden. Like, I got all kinds of things in the works that I'm ready to run. The whole to be determined on my overlay here is because these two guys are running their campaign. So I'm the all right, tag me in, coach. I'm ready.
Chris?
So for me, the two, I guess, worlds that I would see, I like kind of atmospheres. They are, I think they would do well being adapted to a D&D. They're two authors. I recommend anyone listening to this later on down the road, because nobody's watching, fuckers.
I am.
I am too.
So am I, but it's only showing one. I think it's
Yeah.
because we're all on the same
No,
account.
I'm on my
my
personal
YouTube. I'm on my
personal,
YouTube.
yeah.
Oh, I'm on.
So, but I'd like to see. So, I think Mark Heitz, he does a lot of stuff along the lines of like dwarves and orcs, kind of different stories for them. I'd like to see his orcs, like kind of a universe built around it, and it's one of those I don't like to put the players into that much of a niche, but seeing the orcs played as the good guys for a change, as more of a um, misunderstood kind of reality. And along those lines too, like the Bright, the movie Bright, I'd like to see a modern. And I know a lot of DMs have done stuff like this, but I'd like to see it brought into actual lore. Is a more modern take on the fantasy creatures. Another one is actually one of my favorite authors, Dennis McKiernan. He wrote a trilogy called the Iron Tower trilogy, and it's really cool coming from the Tolkien universe and Salvador and all these guys who wrote like great stuff. But his take on like the halflings, I'd like to see. I'd like to write a campaign kind of based on it a little more, because in this world, like, yeah, your elves are cool, your humans are your generic warriors and stuff like that, but um, the halflings are the watchers on the wall, so to speak. Like, they're the ones who are guarding everything, because they're more badass. And I'm a big fan of halflings. I grew up, pretending I was a fucking hobbit. I was the weird, tall, skinny kid that somehow was pretending to be a 4 foot tall, fucking hairy-footed weirdo. But I'd like to see those universes, those things, kind of different plays on the generic roles of the creatures. And what I have in the works is kind of a take two on one that we started but didn't get to finish. It is multiplanar. It is pretty weird. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, and I don't think it's going to be ironed out anytime soon. But I've been working on it since the last one fell off. But it's going to be a weird one. Definitely not nearly as weird as having a half orc were rabbit in that campaign, or not nearly as weird as somebody trying to rizz up a lamia.
Hey man, don't pour it past me, baby.
hey man, you got scales, I'll make you whales. Shit. But I've always got little stories here and there that I've playing with. Like I've toyed with doing some stuff more leaning into the Stephen King side, kind of a darker story, which with this group would be fantastic, because a nice, dark, brooding storyline with a bunch of people who cannot help themselves but make, dick jokes and fart jokes and do stupid, funny things, I think would be absolutely hilarious. It would be the horror thriller that everyone would want to see. What about you, Moose?
My big one, they've heard me wail about this for a year now. Space.
Yeah.
I know SW5E is a an engine you can run this off. It's just it's a whole lot. That's a whole lot of reading. But I'll get to it eventually. um, and I guess space specific. I loved what Dimension 20 did and Brennan did with the Starstruck
Yep.
novels. That whole I had never heard of Starstruck before that, and now I'm infatuated with it. I find that whole universe just fun, and cool. It's loosely what I've based Salt and Sword off of. Is that
Word of the
sort
day, guys. Basted.
Basted.
Hashtag basted.
But yeah. So that's the world. The one I got in the works, Chris and I spent some time actually ironing some stuff out. I got a Wild West one. But not strictly Wild West. There's a model maker, a diorama maker on YouTube called Boyle Eye Hobby Time. Shout out to him. He has this whole world that he's created called the Wild Imaginary West, which is like West plus steampunk. So there's like radios and technology and all that other shit, but still very much like lever actions and revolvers, horses, and carriages, but just some carriages are on top of giant mechs, and then there's bison, but there's also like bison men, which are like minotaurs but bison, and then like giant 30-foot rattlesnakes, and just a whole plethora of giant monsters. And I think that one would be really fun to do, like kind of like a Monster Hunter bank robbery, train robbery kind of Wild West outlaw kind of situation. So that's the one I got in the works. I don't have a cool title for it yet. I'm gonna work on one. But yeah, that's what I got.
Once upon a time in the West.
Yep.
Hey,
And that's
there
my
you go.
last. That's also
you gotta
my
you gotta
last
make
question.
a Clint Eastwood. You gotta make a Clint Eastwood halfling character, or like a lizard, like a Rango.
That's also my last question. So Tony, do you have any more?
I have one more, and it is: what is your preferred world building tool online, if you have one?
Are you talking like map, or are you talking lore wise?
Yes.
Okay.
What? So you're saying, like, what tools do we like to use for?
Like you got Roll20, you got what is it? Incarnate, you got
Hero Forge,
Chat
all the little-
GPT. Like what tools do you use that somebody watching this down the road, if they're looking for inspiration on building a world, what do you use that you like that's easy for you to flow?
Chat GPT, honestly, huge one. You just gotta word shit right though. You can't just be like, "Hey, write me a story and make D&D." You gotta actually like.
Oh wait, you can't. That's all I got was the entire campaign.
No wonder it sucks. No.
Noted. TPK next weekend.
TPK round 2.
Saturday.
No, you gotta word it. You gotta word it like have a fledged out idea, and then just sort of type that and be like, help.
Help me.
Incarnate's a good one for if you're a big map guy like I am. Build a world map. And then also for like battle maps. I've been toying with. I know it's a $50 app, but Dungeon Alchemist is a fun one for making battle maps look lived in.
It's $50 now.
Yeah, it's like 45 or 50. It's something like that.
Good grief.
That's a fun one. I don't recommend that for everybody. I don't use it nearly as much as what it costed. But those are fun. We've been loving alchemy. There's some bugs still that they need to work out, but it's still technically in like alpha or something like that. So
Like pre-alpha
for where it's at is huge. And then probably my like above all favorite one is the one that would sponsor us. That'd be pretty sweet. So if you're one, if you're,
I'd say
want some sponsorship views for our 18 subscribers.
Yeah, man. We got a big market. We got a big market.
We're big in Taipei right now. Not even Taiwan, just Taipei.
Yeah.
Like that town.
Luxembourg, dude. We got like half of Luxembourg.
We've got 3 followers from a weird prison in Russia. The Gulag loves us. I'd say a lot of the same stuff. Like for me, I love Incarnate. I like the fact that you can make maps. There's a community in Incarnate, like a big TTRPG community that's making stuff. And like since I've started looking at maps other people were making, like to use, I've started thinking it's like, oh well, like so I've published every map I've made, just in case somebody might need it. And I think Incarnate's probably one of my big go-tos. As much as we hate on it from time to time, I love Alchemy. Alchemy's great. I love D&D Beyond. I think coming from the era of D&D when I started to D&D Beyond, like it's fucking awesome.
I remember when D&D Beyond first became a thing, and I was playing in person down in Tennessee, and they're like, "Hey, you check out this new app." I'm like, "What the heck is this? D&D Beyond? It doesn't even load fast. Screw this."
Well, I love it because there'll be days I'll get on there and I have an idea for a character that sure, it might just be an NPC in a story, but I'll have an idea for it and I'll build it on Beyond just on a whim. I've got like fucking 12 or 13 characters that I've never played.
Yeah.
Hell, when we were playing the campaign where I had Oswald, I went ahead and built fucking Oswald's wife because that was my backup. Wild fucking story, like, oh, Oswald dies with his wife that everybody thought was dead. Guess what? She's here.
And you got Benvolio too.
Beneficidi.
Sorry.
His name was Beneficidi.
Sorry, Italian Ben, as I like to call him.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. You can just kind of explore and kind of stretch your legs at making a character with a little help. You're not sitting there at a table, in your fucking dining room getting yelled at by your siblings because you're taking up so much space, just looking through information to try to build a character that's going to do well anymore. It simplified it, which, I mean, this is the age of simplification. Like we're trying to simplify things, make things more accessible, and I think D&D Beyond really fucking did that for the game.
And I think if they had a all-in-one sort of thing that like Alchemy has, where it's like your battle maps, your cameras, your voice chat, your roles, if they had something.
And I think they're trying to do that. I think they were trying to do that and kind of reach into that realm with like bringing in above VTT. I think
D&D Beyond did not bring in above VTT. That was complete third party.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like that, like having that available through D&D Beyond. But I think they're behind the curve. They've done what a lot of entertainment companies, gaming companies have done. They got comfortable where they were, and they stuck to a niche and they kept going with that. I think they'll expand. I honestly think D&D Beyond is going to be the go-to D&D space for probably the next 10 years.
Especially they have their VTT coming out too.
Yeah, they have their own VTT coming out. So that's that's one of those. I love Alchemy because of how included everything is to it, like you were saying. But I mean, realistically, dude, I think those 3 things plus shout out to Liquid Death because it fuels my my gaming sessions, and we would love a sponsorship from you guys.
Hey, shout out Folgers Coffee.
Yes. No. Yeah.
Or
like,
Maxwell House. Or
Maxwell House.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of anything outside of those few that really I use more.
Now, for me, ChatGPT for inspiration.
Yeah. I mean, of course,
Uh,
and helping
inspiration.
writing your outlines.
Exactly. Outline. Google Sheets, because there's a template that I have that looks pretty much spot on, to what is like what you would find in a Wizards of the Coast published
Yeah.
whatever. So Google Sheets, ChatGPT, Incarnate sometimes. I use Dungeon Alchemist sometimes for maps. A lot of times, my favorite VTT is Above, just because of everything that you can do, and it correlates. Like with Icewind Dale, I was creating it because hopefully players will join my start playing games, and we can start running that. But
Yeah, shout out to that. Like shameless plug.
I just
put that
right?
plug in there. What's the we'll put the link in the chat. We'll put the link in the bio or something. We'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, there you go.
If you're looking to get started playing, he is looking for players.
He'll DM
and
for you.
having DM'd, like having played as him with him as a DM, it will be a phenomenal game. I guarantee it.
And all you have to do is pay me $5
and
pay me some attention.
My sponsors. But anyway, Above VTT, because I can take, especially like if when I purchased Rhyme of the Frost Maiden, I can pull all of that straight into Above VTT and just create a folder for it for the scenes. And then a new thing that's on Steam, Menyr, MENYR. It's coming out in November. It's gonna be early access, but if they can pull off half of what they've been showing, it's going to be phenomenal. It's literally going to be a video game D&D. And hopefully I will definitely put some time in creating a world. It's like 64 square kilometers, your map size. And
small.
I'm definitely going to, well, I don't know. It could be more.
Kidding. This is coming from the pirate campaign guy where
right. But I'm definitely going to put some
3 hours.
But no, that's all the questions I have.
So to kind of round it out, to kind of round it out. So, we all have a reason for playing D&D. We all have kind of our go-to, our like niches and things that we use, things that we prefer, and things that we look for from the players. If there was one thing that you could say to either invite people, to hook people to potentially play D&D, or to bring people back to D&D, like what would you say would be the hook that you could bring friends into D&D?
I'm sorry about the chair. I've been good about being.
Well, that one I didn't actually hear that one. So
yeah, it's because we're on Discord. Discord has noise cancellation.
Oh, okay.
I saw my
yeah, like.
But
yeah, so like what would be something you could say to the people who are thinking about playing D&D, that want to play D&D, or
it's like, have you ever even for half a moment thought, what would it be like to enter a portal into another world, create a D&D character and play D&D?
Butterfly in the sky.
Like if I walk through a portal and I'm in Faerun, what will I be?
What do you do?
What are you? No.
What would you
do?
I think mine would be, how high school, college, military friends that you live on the other side of the world from now, and it's hard to, you know, you don't really schedule anything. You just sort of like if you meet up in a video game, you meet up in a video game. This is a thing that, above all else, when we play D&D, I think the most important thing that we take from it is hanging out with friends.
Absolutely.
Is just hanging out with each other, and this is a essentially this is an excuse to hang out with friends. This is a thing to do when you're with your buddies, so that it's just not awkward and silent, and it's just it keeps your mind focused on something too. Um, and yeah, it's a good time with friends. So call those people you don't hang out with no more and tell them we're gonna get real dirty and go kill a dragon.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things is giving people somewhere to be where they get to be something else. I that's Tim can give the real reason, but like Bree and I, one of the guys who plays in both of our campaigns, we brought him in. He had never really done it, and kind of convinced him to do it, and now he's hooked. I mean, it's addicting. It's a great way for me. Like if I was bringing people in, it's a great way to have a blast being a kid again.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's everything you wanted to do and pretend as a kid. Now that you have adult money, you can do it even more so. But it really is. It's a blast. It's a great way to be a kid. Like the whole time you're playing, you're not. I know. And again, speaking for me personally, I'm not worried about bills, the taxes, work, whatever I've got to do the next day. I am not here. I am in a crew on a pirate ship in the middle of some weird fucking ocean fighting a goddamn dragon turtle. I'm having a blast with my friends, and for me it's reminiscent of going out back after school on a Friday afternoon, knowing you don't have anything to do the next day, and running through the fucking woods with your friends and stick swords and pretending to slay the fucking dragon. It's that as an adult, and I think it's that little escape we need as an adult to make everything else not be as shitty.
It's like it gets to the point where if the session is canceled, I'm like, fuck, now what am I going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's like, so if you've got nothing else, guys, no more questions for the roundtable, I'll take us out. Thank you, the handful of people that came and watched, and thank you to everybody who's going to watch this after it's already posted up. Appreciate you coming by, listening to us talk about the weird shit that we like to do to our friends who are playing imaginary games. Go find your friends, go start a game, buy some books, get on D&D Beyond. If nothing else, if you don't have people to play with, like I said, we're going to put that link in there. Tony is DM. Tony's going to be leading campaigns and starting campaigns to get people who've already played playing, get people who have never played playing. Play the game. It's a blast. It's a great way to just feel better about the world and get to do and be and say and pretend things that you never thought were possible. We are Vets and Vagrants. Big boy, everybody's favorite uncle, Moose.
And slightly serious, a more serious topic from 3 vets to hopefully some more. Call your buddies, check up on them, make sure they're doing okay.
Absolutely.
We lose
and it's not just the vet community. Not just the vet community. I think the vets, yeah, call your vet buddies, check on them. But at the same time, even if you're not a vet, call your friends, check on them. The world's a really weird place right now. And I think everybody needs that one phone call. If you're a vet and you got people who are in your friend circle that aren't vets, call them and check on them. It might even mean more coming from you because you've been through some shit and they feel like they haven't. Call them and check on them, and get them to play D&D.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, so
I got Elon.
Uh-oh.
big boy uncle. We got everybody's favorite uncle, the Moose, the Lord of Mischief himself, Big Tony, and me, the Soda City Crusher, Chris, and nobody's favorite DM. Appreciate you guys coming out, and definitely be here next weekend for session 2 of Aranthia New Beginnings, where if you watch the last one, we left off with a giant. And yeah, have a good night, guys.
All right. Love y'all.
Awesome
Bye.
pasta.
Pasta lasagnas.